Hello friends and welcome into another video. I'm Das Food, and before we do anything else, I want to apologize for two things. Firstly, my upload schedule has been royally screwed this week. It has been extremely difficult to get anything out. I just want to confirm up front, no, I'm not slacking, I'm not getting lazy, and I'm definitely not burnt out. It was just, gosh, it was the perfect storm of so many things that just made it where uploading this week was kind of difficult. And secondly, my microphone. My microphone probably doesn't sound very good right now, and I think the time may be here to buy a new one. I'm not really sure. I've had just a lot of trouble with my microphone here lately, so if it doesn't sound great, just know that I'm aware of it and I'm looking into solutions. So, all of that out of the way, we have a pretty fun one today, and it's an inverse of a video I've already done. So, last time out, or actually 2 times out because I made the no-ad video between now and then, but from now on, when I say like last video, I'm talking about the one where I talked about which killers were the most fun to face from the survivor's perspective. Now, I want to flip that on its head, and I want to talk about which ones are the most fun from a killer's perspective. Who is the most fun to play as? And as you can see, as you're definitely looking at with your little peepers right now, the grading criteria has changed pretty drastically. So gone are the, extremely fun, usually fun, 50-50, somewhat fun. I don't think somewhat was one of them, but you get the point. Instead, I wanted to acknowledge the, I guess, the subjective nature of a list like this. So instead of making it all about definitively saying, here's what's fun and here's what's not fun, I wanted to rank it as extremely fun, pretty fun, and acquired taste, because there is a killer in this game for everyone. Everyone can play a killer and say, hey, I like what this killer does. And the flip side of that would be every killer is somebody's taste. Somebody enjoys playing every killer. In fact, I don't think it's a bold thing to say. Every killer is somebody's favorite killer. And not just from a lore or design perspective, but from a gameplay perspective. And that is really cool. As is always the case with my videos, or at least 99% of the time, this is purely my opinion. So if you disagree with anything that's said here, please do go down to the comments. Let me know. Tell me, hey Food, you big stinky, you're wrong. I think you're dumb and stinky and wrong. And if somebody puts a comment like that, I'm sure I'll pin it or something like that. But look, let me know. If you disagree, you disagree. It's cool. We're allowed to disagree. But at the end of the day, this is just a fun list for the sake of fun. As is my usual, I'm just going to go in order of when the killers were released. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the 3 that were originally in the game, Trapper, Wraith, and Hillbilly, and we're going to go from there. For each one, I'm probably just going to drag them up to this pretty fun area because that's the middle ground. And then we'll discuss their merits a little bit before giving them their final ranking place. Again, if you have thoughts on any ranking that you find interesting, please do let me know. These are always subjective, and you know what? I'm prone to being wrong, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But with all of that out of the way, almost like, what, 4 minutes of prefacing it, let's get into it. First up, we have the cover boy, and I know that they recently updated the cover, and now there are a couple of people on the cover, but even then, Trapper will always be the cover boy, and even in the updated one, he's still in the middle, he's still the biggest, he's still the cover boy. But how do I feel about playing him? I mean, what I had to do when I first started thinking of, okay, where's everybody going to go? Because I did go through, and I tried to figure out, okay, this person belongs here, this person belongs here, and I tried to make a pro and con for each of them, and what I realized is that for literally every killer on this list, I could make a pro that essentially goes like this. Hey, when everything goes absolutely perfectly right for this killer, they're a blast to play. And that's true, and honestly, props to behavior, that's cool. However, part of that's just the thrill of winning decidedly, right? So the reason I bring that up is because an initial thing for Trapper was, well, when you set your maze of traps and it just goes off perfectly, isn't that just a chef's kiss moment? But you could say that about just about anybody. And while I guess it's technically true for more survivors than not, I guess survivors, damn, more killers than not, it does definitely, it's something you can spread out across all of them, right? So I can't really factor that in, and I hope that that's something people keep in mind, because look, I'm aware that you get times where it's just like, oh wow, but when it hits right, it hits right. But you can't really, we're kind of going for averages here. I'm not really trying to factor in too much the concept of, okay, well, what about the dream game? You know, what about a perfect game? And with that in mind, I put Trapper in acquired taste. And he is definitely an acquired taste. And this is such a great thing that he is the first one on the list, because he best exemplifies what I mean when I call somebody an acquired taste. We know there are Trapper players who love playing Trapper. They love everything about him, or at least most things. I mean, I think most Trapper players have their frustrations, but they love this killer. They love playing as this killer. Most of them probably love playing against this killer. You know, they love the whole concept of you let a gen, maybe 2, maybe 3 go by while you are setting up your death trap. You're setting up in this little 3-gen type area where it is just a web that once the survivors step into it and one of them makes a mistake, Trapper will, you know, he'll sashay his way into an easy victory. And I know that a lot of Trappers really enjoy that about the character. And, you know, I do want to mention, I said that they probably enjoy playing against Trapper. That doesn't impact anybody's grade here if they enjoy playing against them, because that's not what we're ranking here. We are not ranking, you know, if they're fun to play against. We're strictly play as. I want to clarify before somebody in the comments said, but you made a mistake. Like, I do make mistakes, and I guess that was technically one of them, but I wanted to clarify, yeah. If you're fun to play against, I couldn't care less. That does not factor into this. This is all about, are they fun to play? And for me, because this is all subjective and these are all my opinions, Trapper is a bit of a feast or famine killer. And I definitely see the appeal of a playstyle like that, but at the end of the day, I find myself playing Trapper games and oftentimes saying, nope, don't want to play a Trapper game again. And then a few weeks later, I'll be like, let's play another Trapper game. And then I'll play it and I'll be like, nope, don't want to play Trapper anymore. You know, about once a month I get my Trapper game in and I'm like, did not like. And, you know, that's not to say I never enjoy my Trapper games. Sometimes they go well and I do have fun with them. But overall, I would just say he's not really my cup of tea. He's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to not go too long on each of these, so I'll just generally say that Trapper rewards creativity, and that's awesome. But there are a lot of real downsides to this killer. I think he is just helplessly weak when compared to most of the rest of the cast, and overall, I just don't enjoy him as much. Next, we have Philip Ojomo, the Wraith. And this is a killer that I would say more so than most of them, I really struggled with where to put him. I think that the Wraith is a very fun killer, but he can also be a very frustrating killer. So I do enjoy the hit and run strategy, but I don't think I'm saying anything too crazy when I say that right now it's at a pretty non-viable state. Right now, hit and run is just not what it used to be, and it was always a high-risk strategy. I'm not saying that, but right now with survivors kind of realizing just how strong medkits are, and with Circle of Healing still being absolutely nutty, and you know, if you hit somebody and then you leave, let's say you were able to get a dead heart out of them, well, it'll be recharged by the time you get back. So hit and run is not super in right now, which leaves Wraith with the ability to try to use his cloak and uncloak mid-chase. So, you know, you uncloak, you get that first hit, and then you recloak and you try to set yourself up to use Windstorm to get another hit. And, you know, honestly, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. I do not dislike that as a playstyle. While it's different from how I would ideally like to play Wraith, I still think it's actually a decently fun way to play the game. And overall, I think the Wraith, he offers some of the same creativity as Trapper. It's just that instead of placing your traps, you're placing your body, right? You are trying to put yourself in a position where either you're blocking a window from a survivor or, you know, what have you. You're trying to put yourself in that position where maybe you run them out into a dead zone for an easy hit. Maybe you uncloak and they have to kind of take some kind of 50-50 guess. Is he coming from the left or the right? You know, whatever it is. And I do enjoy that about the Wraith. And the first time I was doing this, I thought he might be an acquired taste for me, but honestly, I don't think I can put him there. I think he's pretty fun. I think that it's ironic it's called pretty fun because I think that's a perfect descriptor for him. I think he is just a pretty fun killer. Is he top tier? No, I wouldn't say so. Top tier in terms of fun, of course. But, you know, I would say generally speaking, yeah, I enjoy playing Wraith games. Wraith is fun. We're going to leave him where he is. He's in the pretty fun. And then we'll drag up his running mate, the Hillbilly. And Hillbilly is interesting because he's kind of a killer of dichotomies, right? You have this dichotomy this two sides of the coin, right? Where on one side you have high lethality and great mobility. Both of those things, bada boom, those are up here, right? But then you have bad add-ons, the overheat mechanic. Sometimes you hit things in the environment, you know, those invisible boxes that they tend to plague Bubba a little more because Bubba's going to be sweeping, but they can happen with Hillbilly, and it's even more frustrating, so that would be down here. But I think that makes him a pretty perfect candidate to be in the middle zone. When you look at the aspects and you have some of them that you're like, wow, I love that about this character. And then you have some of them that you're like, wow, I hate that about this character. For me, it's kind of a push. They kind of hit about the same. And overall, I would say Billy is very difficult to play, but his upside makes him fun. This is a killer that with an add-on rework, not the one they did. The one they did was, I mean, it was kind of crap, wasn't it? It was a bad rework. I really think they did a very poor job there, and I gave them credit in the early part, so this is not just me piling on behavior, but that's a job they should be embarrassed by. They did not do very well. It was a bad rework of Billy's add-ons, unfortunately. But yeah, he's pretty fun to play. I think he earns his ranking there. Next, we have the nurse, and you know, I said in my video talking about how fun she is to play against, I said it was all about who's playing the nurse, right? If they're god tier, if they're garbage tier, if they're somewhere in between, the experience is going to be wildly different because she is just so powerful. She has so much potential to wreck a game. And in this instance, I think that, I mean, again, that's another thing you could, I guess, hypothetically apply to anybody, but with nurse, it's amplified. It's on steroids, right? And with the nurse, if you're playing as her and you're not very good, you're going to have the issue of her being very, very frustrating, and you're just going to put her down here and you're not even going to think about it. But unlike Hillbilly, I'm not going to split the difference. I'm going to put her in extremely fun, because I do think that not even once you're to that elite level where, you know, you just realize, okay, I can crush any team if I play well enough because I can ignore looping. No, even if you're just good, even if you're just a good nurse, not great, not elite, not whatever level you want to put above elite, just good, you're going to find that games are pretty fun. It's that constant guessing game, because good survivors are obviously going to try to break line of sight and make you guess where they're going, what they're doing, and when you land those blinks, it's very satisfying. This is a killer that can absolutely be the least fun in the game. Absolutely. However, if you play enough games, I was going to give a number, but I'm going to say enough, because it varies by person to person. Some people are going to pick her up rather quickly, and some people it's going to take legitimately over 100 games before they start to really get good with her. And, you know, that's fine. But if you play her enough to where the kind of rhythms of the character start to make sense, she's probably the most rewarding character to play as in the game. And that's coming from somebody who, I'm not a very good nurse player. I can beat bad teams with nurse. I can even beat mediocre teams with nurse. But if you give me anything better than mediocre, I'm going to lose. I'm looking at a 1k at best, maybe a 2k, I don't know, you know, if I get lucky. But so I'm not coming at this from the standpoint of, oh, you just gotta try to get to my level. No, I would like to be at the level of the better nurse players because they make it look very, very fun. But yeah, she's pretty fun. Next up, we have Mikey Boy, the Shape. And you know, Michael is, oh gosh, it feels like he's controversial, and I just don't understand that. Like, he's such a simple killer. He's so simple, but there is simplicity in his design, and he's another one. I'm not going to do this for all of them, right, where I say, oh, they could go up here or they could go down here. I'm not going to keep doing that, but I will say Michael is interesting because it's not a case of, oh, he could go up here and he could go down here. He is designed to kind of live down here and then have moments of going up here, right? His design is that you spend 90% of the game here, right? Especially if you're tier 1, that feels terrible, right? And then you get to tier 2 and you're just a basic M1 killer. So, I mean, what's the difference? You're Charlotte with no Victor at that point, just taller. And you know, that doesn't feel good. But then you pop tier 3 and whoa, you know. So again, I do think he's a perfect example of one who goes in the middle, because unlike a lot of them though, he's not bad by accident, right? When he feels bad, it's not because the developers are just stinky doo-doo heads who don't know what they're doing and can't make it. No, it's not that. They know exactly what they're doing. This is debatably the most risk-reward killer of them all. Again, debatably. Please don't take that as me making some grand statement on, oh yeah, absolutely the most risk-reward. But tier 3 is super fun, especially if you pair it with the perks that actually work surprisingly well. So obviously Bamboozle is hilarious, because if you didn't know, Michael already vaults quicker when he's in tier 3. So if you pair it with Bamboozle, which I believe is a 15% increase to your vault speed, I mean, he hops over those things like a fast vault survivor. It's crazy cool. And I do think that tier 3 Michael is very fun, but I can't put him in extremely fun, because to me, what he is a worse version of the Oni, which I guess is a bit of a spoiler for where Oni's going. But if you didn't know I was going to put Oni in there, you haven't heard me talk about Oni. I love Oni. And I think Michael is he's a worse Oni. Oni is just a more fun Michael. But with that being said, Oni is extremely fun, and Michael, being just slightly worse than that, is still pretty fun. I like Michael. I'm happy with Mike. Mike should be proud to be here. He's a fun killer. He also allows for good gimmick builds. I was about to change off of him, but he also allows for good gimmick builds. So if you're playing as Michael and you bring something like, you know, your Scratch Mirror Myers or your Perma Tier 3 Myers, you're just playing around the gimmick, and gimmicks make DBD way more fun. So good job, Mike. I like Mike. And good job, Debs. This is a fun killer. Next up, we do have the Hag. And in the case of the Hag, she is another acquired taste for me. And I feel bad, right? I feel so bad, because I actually find that Hag mains are generally chill. You know, I was laughing with them in the comments below on the previous video where I talked about Hag being my least favorite killer to face, and they were lovely about it. They were just, you know, they were actually very understanding about it, and that is not the anomaly for me. An anomaly would be a toxic Hag. I find a lot of Hags to actually be very chill, laid-back people who just really enjoy the trap setting style of play. And you know what? That's fine. One thing I have found as I make these videos and I read through comments, and I do read the comments, I really do, is that some people don't like the stealth killers as much as I do, which I thought they were kind of universally loved, but some people really don't like Ghostface, and some people really don't like the Wraith, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like I mentioned in the intro of it, right? There are killers and playstyles for everybody. And for me, I have not acquired the taste to enjoy Hag games. I don't enjoy playing against her. I don't enjoy playing as her. She's just not the killer for me. That being said, I'm really happy that some people like the Hag. And if your killer is in the acquired taste category, do not take this as me saying that your killer, you know, oh, I wish they weren't in the game. Because I'm glad that there are killers for everyone. Hag's not for me. I don't enjoy the trap-heavy playstyle. But, you know, it's just kind of, it's a matter of opinion at that point. I don't like how short she is. I don't like how slowly she moves. I don't enjoy the trap setting very much. She's just not for me. There's really no aspect of her that is preferable for me. However, if you want to feel like some kind of giga-brained genius, Hag is a good way to go. Hag makes you feel smart when your plan comes together, so don't let me influence it too much. If you feel differently, you feel differently. Go and play Hag and enjoy her. Next, we have the Doctor. The Doctor is an interesting one because he is a killer who, I mean, first off, I was gonna say my opinion has changed a lot on him over time, but then again, his playstyle has changed a lot over time. And I didn't really used to love Doctor with the whole switching between the two stances. It was clunky and it wasn't super well executed. And while it was kind of cool that he could be in one stance where he can't hit you, but he will raise your madness passively, it wasn't very strong ultimately. And I mean, I think the rework was good for him. I really do. I think the Static Blast, I think, are those two things? Static Blast is the big one that goes out everywhere, and Static Shock is the little one. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but just know that's how I'll be referring to them. Professional here. I'm a professional. I know my terms. Anyway, Doctor, he's fun when you do the Static Blast and you get that moment where all four survivors scream. You know, that's pretty satisfying. But if you take that aspect of him away, if you take away the aspect of what it's like to play against him, which again doesn't factor here, he's kind of boring. So from the survivor's perspective, they have a lot going on. They have reverse skill checks, and they have illusionary doctors, and they scream, and yada yada, you know, all the madness effects, right? The issue is that from the doctor's perspective, he doesn't really do much. He's basically an M1 killer with that static shock ability that can deny the survivors their ability to throw pallets or make vaults. And while that can be, I guess it can be pretty nice to hit and get a kind of cheeky hit that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise, I just ultimately find him to be maybe a little too basic to really enjoy. I don't hate the Doctor. I definitely don't hate the Doctor, but I can't say I get that excited to play as him. And I gave him a real go. I really did. I thought, okay, if I play enough Doctor, I'll get really into him and he'll become one of my favorite killers. And disappointingly, that just hasn't really happened. And after playing a lot of Doctor, I think I have to put him in acquired taste. While he's not bad, well, he doesn't feel bad, I should say, to play, I just can't really get with the groove of the character. I'm just not there yet. And I really wish I was, but, you know, what are you gonna do, right? Next up, we have Huntress. And Huntress, to me, she is the good noodle. She is the star student. She is the one that we put up in front of the rest of the class and say, be more like her. If you're a bad teacher, I guess. But yeah, she goes in extremely fun. And if I were doing it where the further left you are, the more that it indicates, you know, like if this was 1, this was 2, whoever goes here next is 3, you know, she would be here probably. But that's not how we're doing it. This is just an order of release date. So, you know, keep that in mind. But yeah, I think the Huntress is extremely fun to play in that she offers basically a limitless skill ceiling, which Nurse does as well. This is a character who, the more time you put into her, the better you're going to get. And the better you're going to get, the more you're going to stomp people. And that's pretty satisfying. I mean, look, I have played a lot of Huntress. And I used to dislike her because I spent my first year of playing the game was on the Xbox. And I thought, wow, this is a very difficult killer. I do not like her. And then I moved to PC, and moving to PC after having never played on a PC, there were a lot of like little things I had to kind of adjust to, and I was still like, wow, I don't really like playing Huntress very much. But then as I got adjusted to it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. And the more time I spent on her, the more time I realized I really, really enjoy this character, almost to the point of really struggling to identify just what it is I enjoy. I enjoy so many little things about her. Even like the sound it makes, that kind of squishy sound when you land a hatchet hit, it's just lovely. It is just fantastic. I love the Huntress. I think she is A+ design. She is in so many ways behavior's magnum opus. This is just a fantastic killer. And if you're looking for a killer to make your main because you haven't really decided yet, or maybe you're looking for a new main, Huntress is a great option. Huntress is about as good as an option can be. I am very much pro Huntress, not a pro Huntress. Pro as in a favor of Huntress. If you watch my streams, by the way, das_food on Twitch, if you want the wackiest streams around, you'll see that I am not a pro Huntress. I'm actually a rather bad Huntress, but I do enjoy her, and I think what I enjoy most about her is I just kind of yeet my hatchets like it's nothing. Like, I am constantly throwing hatchets, even if they're bad hatchets, even if they have a very low probability of success. I just really enjoy throwing hatchets. It's very satisfying. So she easily earns the extremely fun ranking. Next, we have Booba. And last video, I wanted to put him in the extremely fun to face, but I was afraid. I was afraid of pressure from the greater DBD community. I thought that they would be like, oh, Bubba, oh, gross. We hate Bubba. And I got comments basically saying, hey, you do your thing. You put Bubba where you want to put Bubba. So let me tell you, to those kind souls who said that, you did this. Bubba is so fun. I am shocked by how much hate this killer gets. I really am. And look, one thing I've been complimented on, and that means a lot to me, is people say, hey, you're able to look at these issues without being super biased. You're able to kind of appeal to both sides. And I do think that's because I was a killer main for a long time and now I'm a survivor main. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to have to stop being I guess, a bit unbiased, I'm just gonna call it like it is. The reason so many people hate Bubba is because a lot of survivors, they've just lost to a lot of Bubbas, so they've said, well, this is a stinky killer, and they're gonna blame it on the face camping. I know they are. They're gonna say, oh, all Bubba's face camp, or at least 90% of Bubba's face camp. But you know, in my experience, that's not true. I have played the game a lot, but I do understand that at the end of the day, I could have 10,000 hours, which I don't, but I could have 10,000 hours, and even if they were all 10,000 against Bubba, that's still anecdotal. That's still my evidence against your evidence. It's experience, right? So I realize that, but I think survivors are way too hard on Bubba, and I think that's kind of crept over to the killer community. You have some Bubbas who have decided we're going to be this monster that you have made us, you know, and which isn't, by the way, to blame survivors on getting face camped or something, because there are some people who just wake up and choose violence, and you know, I do think they're drawn to Bubba because the character has become such a meme. But if you can look past the meme, right, if you can look past the face camping, which by the way is actually kind of fun because it's funny, at least I think it's funny. If you take the game super seriously, you probably hate face camping Bubbas. But you know, if you don't, yeah, it's funny. I laugh. I don't know. I've never had a big issue with it, but you know, I think that I mentioned in the previous video trying to bait the chainsaw, right? And that's fun from Bubba's perspective too. So whereas it's fun from a survivor's perspective because you have to try to bait the chainsaw, but if you mess up, you're getting insta-downed. Where it's fun from Bubba's perspective is if you mess up, maybe you go into a frenzy. Best case scenario, you waste time and you lose one of your chainsaw's charges, of which you have 3 at max. You know, so it's this risk-reward game for a power that is extremely simple, but extremely fun. In fact, I would say Bubba is the best case of a very simple killer. You could make a case for Huntress as well, but I think Bubba is a killer who, he doesn't offer tons of creativity. I mean, sure, you see the people who can moonwalk with the chainsaw and get some actually pretty crazy hits. I know Otstarva has made a few that make people go like, oh my gosh, look what this dude's doing. But, you know, I don't think that anybody's going to be under the impression that Bubba's the most creative of the killers in terms of power, but he doesn't have to be. He's really cool. He's really cool, and if you've avoided him because you're kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's a Bubba, all they do is face camp, and I just don't like that, just give him a try. Give Bubba a couple games, play him for like, I don't know, around 10 games, and tell me that by the end of the 10th one you're not enjoying the character, because I think he's extremely fun. However, I have taken a long time on each of these, so I'm going to have to speed this up because at the rate I'm going, this will be an hour-plus video, and I don't want to do that to you. The original recording I did of this was 40 minutes, roughly, but that one's audio files got corrupted, so that was so fun. I'm gonna take out my frustration on Frederick. He goes an acquired taste. Freddy is not fun, and it's a shame because Freddy used to be super fun. I actually think original Freddy was very fun because he was this balancing act of the insane power of wall hacks with the insane, I guess, counter power of having the single worst chase in the history of the game. OG Freddy was not intimidating, but he was an information killer. He would know where you were at any point in time, and I actually think that was kind of cool. I think that was a cool concept, and I hate that they changed him and made him essentially this weird combination of Demogorgon and Clown, even though I understand. Well, no, Demogorgon was out by the time he was released. I mean, by the time he was updated, I believe. Yeah, he just lost his personality with that. And the shame of it is that the fake pallets, which are probably the most fun part of his kit, also are basically throwing the game. The fake pallets are terrible. Survivors just learn to pre-throw, and it's a whole headache, and it's not fun. I really hate that Freddy's in this state that he's in, because as a former Freddy main, I want him to be at his best. I want him to be living his best life. And unfortunately, our poor king is not at his best. In fact, he's probably at his worst, because he's in this weird purgatory where he's not bad enough to make it like a constant joke of, oh, haha, look, it's a Freddy. He's definitely not good enough to be, oh crap, it's a Freddy. He's in this kind of lower tier of just, he's not very good, but then you can't say, oh, well, at least he's super fun, because he's not very fun. He just doesn't do much that's that fun. I don't hate Freddy. I really don't. In fact, it's because I love him that I'm so sad about where he is right now. I really wish Freddy were a much better killer, and I hope that in time he can reach that status. Next up, we have the Pig. Now, I have said on numerous occasions that she is one of my favorite killers to face, but how do I feel about playing her? The short answer of it is that she has the potential to be very fun, but she will never be put in the extremely fun for me because she is so RNG dependent, and RNG dependence is not fun, which I realize every killer is to some extent RNG dependent, right? All of them are RNG dependent in that, hey, where are the pallets going to spawn? How's the map going to shake out? Because there are all the little differences that, load in every time. I realize that, but it's a major factor for the Pig. So the Pig may get massive value out of her helmets, and she may get almost no value out of them. And yeah, I can't look at that and say, hey, that's a killer that I really, really like, because it's not like, ooh, what a fun roll of the dice. It's more a frustration type thing of like, oh, they got their helmet off? I put that on them not even a minute ago. Yeah, they must have gotten it off in their first one. Cool, great. And, you can patrol the boxes, I suppose, but that defeats the point of a passive slowdown. And I mean, that's not very nice. That's not a nice way to play the killer. I mean, look, guys, I don't know what you want me to say. She's based on numbers. It's all about the numbers, and that's not fun. However, that is not to say that there are not some decided advantages, because the way I'm talking about it, you may think that it's boom, numbers bad, Pig goes down here. But I'm actually going to leave her in pretty fun, because there are aspects of her that I like. Firstly, as silly as it is, every little memeable aspect of the Pig makes her more fun to play. So it's the squeak whenever she gets stunned, it's the roar, it's the ability to teabag, albeit slowly. These are all fun aspects of her. I like the way she puts her grubby little fingers out when she's sneaking. It's just, it looks so nefarious, right? It's kind of, yeah, I'll get these survivors. Which is exactly how Pig sounds. If you've seen the movie, she talks like that. Clearly, don't fact check me. And then there's also the dash ability, which is actually pretty fun. It's a good ability, and trying to get the most out of it is definitely satisfying. So overall, while she has a major flaw, almost everything else about her is pretty fun. So I think she's a good example of a middle ground killer. Whew. Ran out of breath on that one. Next up, we have the Clown. Now, you may say, hey, you're a Clown main, right? Right, Foo? You main the Clown? You're the Clowny man? Aren't you going to put him in the extremely fun? And you're absolutely right, I'm going to put them in the extremely fun. In fact, let's not stop there. Let's add an extra row, huh? Let's add an extra row just for our Clowny boy. We'll make it this nice platinum color. Ooh, Clown, look at our boy. He is the S tier. He is the most joyous character to play. He is so far above the pack. Let me ask you, if you disagree with me, who else throws bottles, huh? Can any of them else, could any other killer even look at a bottle? Would they know what it is? Would they know how to use it? I doubt it. Yeah, Clown earns his place just for being the girthiest lad in the game. I love all the sounds he makes. I love it when he grunts when he steps over a window, over a ledge. I love it when he gets a hit and then he gets with the I love everything about this character. What a fantastic character. Perfect. Put a crown on my boy. S tier. That's the snake tier. That's the S tier. He goes way up there. Love Clown. Next up, we have Spirit, who goes on the other tier. No, I'm just kidding. I have given Spirit a very hard time in the past, and I will admit that her 110% movement speed is atrocious. I do not enjoy playing it. However, she's kind of in this interesting place where essentially her power is like, hey, do you want a free hit like once a chase? Maybe twice a chase? There you go. here's this character that as soon as you have her power charged up, it's free hit city. And it's not bad, right? For as not fun as it is to face, it's kind of fun to play as. I guess for me, the main issue with Spirit is that I can't put her higher because I feel like I just never feel good about wins with Spirit. I don't feel like I really accomplished much because she doesn't require the same mechanical mastery that somebody like Nurse or Blight, the other two widely accepted S-tier killers, require. She's a lot easier. She's way simpler. She's like Bubba in terms of simplicity, but way stronger. And I just don't really enjoy that about her. I don't enjoy that she's got this crazy power and it's not hard to learn how to use. I'm not saying that the top tier, like absolutely tippity top spirits aren't like way better than the average, but that's every killer. And I think that Spirit is, look, if you need a main and you hate losing, Spirit's a great character to get invested in. For me personally, she just doesn't do much. But she's not terrible. She's not, I want to clarify all of that to say, you know, I mean, there's something to be said for playing a really powerful killer, right? That's fun. Next up, we have Legion. And Legion was another one. I said Wraith was hard for me to place. Legion was hard as well, because on the one hand, Legion has a terrible power, you know, Feral Frenzy. But at the same time, as weird as it is, Feral Frenzy is the main reason I just can't quite put them in Acquired Taste. I realize that Feral Frenzy has never been weaker than it is right now, right? Because with all of the ways that survivors can heal rather quickly, and with the fact that some of the better survivors just ignore being injured altogether, and I mean, what happens when all the survivors are injured? You're just an M1 killer, right? Because what are you going to use Feral Frenzy for? Just getting notifications on where people are? Like, it's nice in theory, I suppose, but in execution I kind of find it lacking. But yeah, you know, I enjoy the little burst of energy that you get with Feral Frenzy, and it goes to show you just how subjective this list is, because some people would say Legion is, you know, they're too bad to be anything but an Acquired Taste. But I don't know, I enjoy stabby time. I really do. I have fun with that. And there is something kind of fun to just like putting on My Chemical Romance and playing a game as Legion. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to just embrace the edge. It's not so bad. I think Legion is decently fun, even if, again, because it's me talking about Legion, I have to just absolutely poop on how terrible their power is. They're still kind of fun in their own way, especially if you play Joey, who would be probably on the extremely fun, because Joey's just hilarious. He's so short compared to everything else. It's like two Victors stacked up. You get Joey. But anyway, yeah, we'll put him in pretty fun. Next up, we have Plague. Plague is one of the few killers who is genuinely reliant upon survivors to determine how her game goes. And I realize you could say that, again, you could say that for any of them because if they're just like God tier or whatever, but I guess instead of how the game goes, I should say she is reliant upon survivors to determine how her power goes. And that's kind of interesting, right? Like that's kind of a unique thing. I was trying to think of who else. I guess you could make the case that like the trap killers, if you don't step in their traps, they determine. But even then, they're still kind of determining it, because if they put one in a place where you would otherwise be willing to walk, you know, they're still kind of determining it. Whereas with Plague, it's all about getting the red spit, or giving her the red spit, or staying broken. And from the Plague's perspective, I will admit that to me, she feels, oh gosh, I don't know. I think she's a 115 movement speed killer, isn't she? Like, she's 115, but she feels so slow. She just doesn't feel very good in terms of speed. However, once she got a couple of minor buffs, I think she became a lot smoother of a killer. Smooth like a shark, really. And I think that's fun. I enjoy playing as the Plague. And I would say overall, I'm pretty happy with Plague. I think she's solid. Next up, we have a stealth killer, so obviously, boom. I mean, we know my biases at this point, right? And I think that what really elevates Ghostface, because when I first started doing this, you know, if you would have had me do this a month ago, I should say, Ghostface would have been here. However, I've been playing a lot more Ghostface, And it's one of the beautiful things that happens when you commit yourself to learning about a killer. I have found that I really enjoy the lean and stalk mechanic, and I enjoy 99ing people to the best of my ability. Sometimes I accidentally 100% them and expose them, but I enjoy that kind of cat and mouse of, you know, trying to use the expose status effect, because for the longest time I just played Ghostface as somebody who I'd bring the chewed pin and whatever the book is where, you know, he recovers his power more quickly, and it was just all about going incognito mode and getting the drop on survivors. And by the way, that was fun too. Obviously the teabagging is hilarious. This is just a really fun killer. I'm a very big fan of this killer. Next up we have Demogorgon. Rather than even tease you with putting him in the middle, I'm going to go and move him up here as well. And this is a killer who really rewards dedication, more so than I think people give him credit. Obviously, the shred attack is super fun. I really, really like the shred attack. I think the shred attack is one of the better powers in the game, but what makes it so cool is that that's not Demo's only power. The portals are absolutely amazing, and it's so fun for me to try to find creative ways to put the portals around the map. So what you get with Demogorgon is a killer that can be creative in the same types of ways as, say, like a Wraith or Trapper, but then he can be lethal in the same ways as a Huntress or Nurse. I mean, not as lethal as a Nurse, obviously, but you get the point. It's this really cool combination that makes for just an elite tier killer in terms of fun to play as. And if you haven't played Demogorgon and you own it, I would say go play some demo games. And if you don't own demo, I'm not telling you to, you know, go outside of behavior's control and acquire it in a different way, but I am saying you owe it to yourself to play as Demogorgon, because Demogorgon is super fun, as is Oni. Oni is Michael Myers on a billion steroids. This is Michael Myers if he went to the gym for a week, said I'm not getting the results I want, went online and bought a funny little needle, or I guess not the needle, I guess he'd buy the actual steroid. The metaphor fell apart, but you get the point. He's big, he's chunky, he's strong, and this is the killer. He's just the definition of a snowball killer, and it's all about the high highs with him, because the low lows are, boom, he's an M1 killer, right? He's just an M1 killer, but even then, he has an advantage over other M1 killers, over simple M1 killers. That being that while he is in the M1 state, he still is forcing survivors to go out of their way to heal where they might otherwise choose not to. Because if you don't heal against an Oni, look, it's not smart to heal against a Legion. You shouldn't, really, but you absolutely have to against an Oni. Because if you don't, what he's going to be able to do is go to the gens you've worked on, go to the places you've run, yada yada, and he's going to be able to collect swimming pool size blood samples. And then he's going to go ooga booga, break out the whooping stick, and he's going to make your life a lot more difficult. And I think that's awesome. I love going into the rage and just, you become, I say he's not Hillbilly, I'm sorry. He's Michael on steroids, but that's what I was gonna say is, really, he's also Hillbilly on steroids, because he doesn't have collision. He can hug a wall a lot more effectively. Oni's terrifying. Oni, gosh, what a fun killer. Next up we have Deathslinger. Deathslinger, you know, every few picks now I have to have one where I'm like, oh man, I struggled with this guy. But with Slinger, it was actually, it was a pretty, I guess, good struggle, because the struggle was, do I put him in pretty fun or extremely fun? He is a really fun killer. I don't have any issues with saying that. However, I have one main issue that keeps me from wanting to put him in the extremely fun, and that's that the same hitboxes that are a major issue for Huntress are an issue for Slinger. The big difference being that if Huntress if she misses one of her hatchets, she usually has another one, right? She usually has another one to immediately fire with, or fire when appropriate. Whereas with Deathslinger, if you do get screwed over by something that's out of your control, you have this unfortunate reality that now you have to slow down and reload. And look, maybe you get lucky. Maybe you're at a loop where the survivor couldn't really get away, or maybe that's just enough for them to get to the next strong loop. And admittedly, that feels pretty terrible. So also, you know, he had his nerf, and What bothers me about the Deathslinger's nerf is not that, you know, he's got the slower time aiming down the sights. I think that's a good change. I honestly think that was needed. However, buffing the tear radius, I don't understand why they did that. I really don't. I think they took out one of the most fun aspects of the character, which was trying to essentially fish survivors off of gens, or, you know, out of a heal because they're not paying attention because they haven't heard your tear radius yet. Now they're probably going to. And it's just a real letdown. It's a real letdown that they did that, and I wish they would change that back. So I think that with his tear radius put back to pre-nerf numbers, you could make a real case for extremely fun, and even then he still makes a real case even with his current state. But I'm just gonna leave him in pretty fun. I do like Slinger though, and shout out to Slinger mains. I think you guys are cool. I think you're the rootinest, tootinest cowboys this side of the Mississippi. I ran out of my metaphor midway through. I don't know if you realize. Anyway, not metaphor, my expression. We have Pyramid Head up next, moving swiftly ever onward. And Pyramid Head, I mean, what do you want me to say? This dude claps cheeks. This is a crazy cool killer. This is the Chad of Chads. This is Chad Thundercock, destroyer of worlds. He goes up in extremely fun. If you haven't done yourself the favor of playing as Pyramid Head, let me give you some of the benefits here. Let me sell you on this retirement package, right? Firstly, do you hate Decisive Strike because it's stinky? Of course you do. It's stinky. So what if you just didn't have to deal with it? You want to down somebody after they get unhooked within like the roughly hour that they have to use Decisive Strike? Good news, you can do that. You can just down them and then send them to a cage, or even better, you can Kersploonk, just kill them instantly. It's fantastic. Do you want to hit more than one person at a time with Huntress hatchets? Well, now you can. It's fantastic. You can use Punishment of the Damned, which works a lot like Huntress hatchets, except instead of going through the air, it rides along the ground, so it can go through loops, and again, it could hit the entire team if it needed to. If they're all clumped up together, which obviously they never will be, but if all four of them were clumped up together, or more realistically, two of them, you send out Punishment of the Damned, and it's going to hit everybody that it comes into contact with. It's going to injure everybody, I should say. Obviously, it's going to hit everyone it comes into contact with, but it's also going to injure them. This is a real beefcake of a killer, and it's a power level appropriate for the magnanimous? That's the word I was looking for. That's a fourth year word. Ooh. The magnanimous occasion of bringing Silent Hill to DBD. This is a crazy cool killer, and I really, really enjoy playing as Pyramid Head. Next up, we have the Blight. He goes into extremely fun. I think one thing you'll notice is that a lot of the really strong killers make their way to extremely fun, but there's a reason for that, right? And, you know, we all love our Sonic Pinball boy. We love how he bounces around, how he's just an absolute nutter. We love this guy. He's great. And overall, the Blight is one of those characters that you could convince me, and I think somebody might comment this, right? That the hit detection issues knock him down a peg. Oh, but I just can't do it. I realize how frustrating the Blight can be when the game decides, oh, you wanted to bounce off of this? Well, you can't. I understand that. Or oh, you didn't hit anything? Well, surprise, there's a box in the environment that you can't see, but it's there and it's gonna stop you. I realize that technical issues hurt the Blight, and I realize that I've held other killers down for technical issues. This is my way of saying I realize that I am a hypocrite. However, gosh, this is a consistently fun killer. I really enjoy the Blight. I enjoy playing as the Blight, even if I wouldn't say I'm even good. I would actually say I'm a bad Blight. But I don't care. I have a lot of fun with them. Next up, the Twins. The Twins are an interesting one. Very interesting, because it's the first time since Bubba that I really have to take a stance against public opinion here. I really have to do something that I know I'm going to get in trouble for. But I don't care. I don't care. I live for playing as Victor. I love Victor. Victor is so fun. And this is another case where it's like, but food, what about the issues with this killer? What about the 500 million years that it takes to transition from one to the other for who knows what reason? Yeah, that's pretty frustrating. As is when survivors decide to just kidnap Victor. They say, hey kid, hop in the van. We're going to Disney World. And Victor, like an idiot, always says, yeah, sure, yeah, let's go. I want to ride the roller coaster. I want to go to Magic Mountain. But I don't care that he wants to go to Magic Mountain, because let him go. He's a kid. He's the baby. And I love Victor. It is all Victor. Charlotte does nothing for me. It's a basic M1 killer. What does she do? She swings a scythe, right? She spreads the joys of communism to everyone. She's got her sickle, and she's just looking for her hammer, right? But the hammer is a baby. It's Victor. He's running around. He's getting free piggyback rides. I love this killer, and I'm not going to apologize for it, which I usually say, like, I'm not going to apologize. I'm sorry, which is a bit oxymoronic, but hey, when you're moronic, you're moronic. Speaking of moronic, let's talk about this guy. Let's talk about the Trickster. Yeah, he's like a less fun Huntress. he's like Huntress if, I don't know, you made her better in mid loops, like medium height loops. I don't know, man. I mean, he's mostly his base power is kind of fun, but then his main event is so bad. It's so bad. It's such a bad power. But I like how he giggles and speaks Korean as he's doing his chase and all. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on Trickster. I'm gonna put him in pretty fun, because when you go on a bit of a spree and you're just throwing knives like there's no tomorrow, it is kind of satisfying. It is kind of nice just getting to toss knives like it's nothing. So, you know, not bad, not bad. But what if we could have a killer that's better than not bad? What if we have a killer who's up in the extremely fun category? Now, you may notice something about me if you listen to me as I talk about the killers I play, right? I'm a clown main. Secondary mains would be probably mostly Bubba and Nimi. I also really like playing Demogorgon. So you might put this together that I don't like palettes. Thankfully, neither does Nemesis. Nemesis hates palettes. Nemesis really likes sticking out his tongue and giving those palettes a good licking. And you know what? That alone is pretty satisfying, but I think the main thing I like about Nimi is that initial scramble to get to tier 3, right? To raise his power level so that he's a lot scarier. Because obviously, tier 1, you can't break pallets. Boo, hiss, weak. Tier 2, you can break pallets, but you have all the reach of me, because I have short arms and a short body. I'm a short guy. But then tier 3 comes around, and all of a sudden Nimi is not joking around anymore. Nimi is terrifying at that point, and I think it's super fun. I really, really enjoy tier 3 Nimi. As the killer, as the survivor, I find it less fun. But the zombies, I don't really factor them in one way or the other. They're a sideshow. They don't really impact what playing Nimi is like. Though it is fun that when you get that final hook for the 4K, you can go find your nearest zombie and give him a face 5 to celebrate. That's cool. Yeah, but he's super fun. I would describe Nimi as being just a weaker pyramid head, but I think that landing the tentacle strikes might actually be more satisfying if weaker than landing punishment if the damned. So if I had to say who I liked playing between the two more, it's probably Nimi, but he's definitely weaker than pyramid head. But anyway, yeah, he's super fun. Really like the killer. Next up, Cenobite. Cenobite was one I wanted to play around with the idea of making him my main, because I love Hellraiser, and I love Hellraiser 2, by the way. They're both fantastic films. I couldn't quite do that, but I will say there is something dementedly fun about playing as Pinhead or Chatterer. This is a very fun killer, and I really love the game of who can find the box first, because obviously if he finds the box, he's gonna get excited. And if they find the box, then you get this fun question of, you know, I think one of my favorite things is, can I make it there in time? Can I get there in time without teleporting? Because teleporting, there are times where it's applicable. But more than anything, what I like to do is I like to try to get within range to shoot out a chain and disrupt their animation. And if I can do that, oh my gosh, that's so satisfying. That being said, it's kind of a mixed bag playing as Pinhead. There are times I really, really enjoy playing as him, And then there are times where it just feels like maybe the big issue with him is that he's punished for skillful plays. If you hit a chain from really far away, it basically does nothing. But if you hit a gimme chain from up close, you're rewarded with a hit. And that seems so backwards to me. It feels like maybe the further back you hit them with a chain from, the more resilient or sturdy the chain should be, something to that extent. And I think if they would implement something like that, I'd put them in the extremely fun. But right now, because it essentially seems like you're rewarded for making the easiest plays instead of the most impressive plays, I don't love that about the character. That being said, he's very fun, he was a good addition to the game, and I'm happy he's here. It was a dream license, and I could not be happier, for the most part, with the implementation of the Cenobite. Next up, we have Artist. Oh, gosh, I am just never nice to Artist, am I? I just don't tend to have nice things to say about her. But I'll keep it succinct because we're coming up on the hour mark and I don't want to keep you here all day. That being said, if you're listening to this while you're playing a game, which I would assume you are because you probably should be, right? Or maybe you're driving or whatever, I don't know. If you are driving, thank goodness there's not much going on the screen here and it's just mostly audio because, hey, don't watch YouTube and drive, kids. But anyway, yeah, if you're playing a game, let me know down below. I really had a fun time reading those comments last video like this where people were like, oh, I was playing Elden Ring, or oh, I was actually playing Dead by Daylight, you know, whatever it is. But anyway, just let me know down below because I find that fun. But anyway, Artist, she takes out probably the most fun aspect of the game for me, which is looping. You know, her whole thing is setting up crows so that survivors will leave the safety of the loop to try to get to another loop. And presumably you are supposed to hit them in this transition period, or if they're foolhardy enough to stick around for the loop. The issue with that, I feel, is that that's just not that fun. I just don't enjoy it. However, I want to do something different. Rather than complain about the Artist, I want to give props, because I've made my piece known that I don't enjoy the Artist and I think it was a bit of a flop of a chapter. I want to give some credit and say when I say flop of a chapter, I enjoy some of her perks, I enjoy the map she came out with, and I enjoy Jonah as a survivor. Additionally, the design team did a fantastic job. I think she looks great. It's a really cool design for a killer. And if you are an Artist main, I have nothing but appreciation for you and the fact that you are playing a character that I don't have a ton of interest in. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that we're interested in different characters because that's healthy for the game. So, am I a big fan of the Artist? No. But as is always the case, even amongst the negative, there are inevitably positives. Positives, by the way, like the Onryo, the Oreo, the Sadako, we're gonna call her Sadako. What a fun killer. What an absolutely fun killer. I really, really like Sadako. I really enjoy a lot about this character. I am a massive fan of this playstyle of teleporting very quickly, right? We have teleport killers. Demogorgon does it. Freddy does it. I'm sure others do it that I'm just... Oh, Hag does it. She teleports from phantasm traps, right? But in the case of Sadako, she's able to teleport mid-chase very effectively because, you know, for me, I find that coming out of a Demogorgon portal, or especially like a Freddy Jin, I always find myself a little disoriented. But with Sadako, because it is such an immediate transition, you are able to pick up a chase without ever really having dropped it in the first place, and that's extremely satisfying. The only reason I can't put her in the extremely fun is because really, as far as chasing is concerned, she's an M1 killer with no real power, right? She can't do a whole lot. Now, it's satisfying to try to get close and get the jump by being de-manifested, but I mean, I don't know, I think most survivors can tell when a Sadako is coming, especially if it's a spine chill gamer, which you do see a lot of spine chill. But that being said, the teleport feature is pretty fun. I think it's a good design choice, and honestly, when I heard they were bringing Ringu into the game, I had no idea how that was going to look, right? I just had no idea. I was struggling to think about what her power would be, and I think they did a really, really good job. What a cool chapter. and I hope they do as good of a job on the anniversary chapter, whoever that is. But that's gonna do it for me. Wow, we went over an hour. I can't believe that somewhere along the way I added an additional 20 minutes, because again, the initial recording was 40 minutes. So I don't know, I guess I was just a lot chattier this time. I guess maybe because I did the initial recording late at night, you know, maybe I was just tired. Maybe the initial recording was terrible and it's a good thing that it just never saw the light of day. I don't know. But anyway, that is going to do it for me. I do want to remind you, if you enjoyed this one, hey, liking the video is free and it really helps me. And you know what? Between you and me, it makes my heart smile. And you want my heart to smile. My doctor doesn't. He says that's not normal. But you know, we're way too deep in this now. Also, if you haven't subscribed, maybe consider it, or maybe don't. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm not your mother. I'm not your father. What I am is just some guy on YouTube who makes goofy DBD videos. And hey, there's a place for that. Anyway, I do stream on Twitch. Check that out if you want all kinds of hijinks. But, you know, that it's the YouTube spiel, right? It's the like, subscribe, whatever, do all the stuff. More important than that, I hope you're having a lovely day. This is recorded on a Friday. I hope you're having a great Friday. I hope that you're about to have a tremendous weekend. And if you're listening to this at a later date, I hope whatever day it is for you has been absolutely just astonishingly good, because, you know, I just, I had a minor bout of just, I call it what it is, right? Like depression. And I'd been doing pretty well, and I just had a little hiccup with it. And kind of coming out the other side of that, I just remembered that, you know, for all the bad and all the pain, life is beautiful and it is truly worth living. And I hope that you guys are taking that to heart, and I hope you're living your lives. I hope that you're happy. I hope that you're treating others right. And I hope to hear from you. I hope to see you around, you know. I don't know, this whole thing got away from me. It felt important to me to say it, but you know, because I can sit here and talk about like and subscribe, but what does that mean, right? At the end of the day, what does that mean? They're not going to put on my headstone, he had X amount of subscribers. Or maybe they do, and then I'll come back and haunt them. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Until then, I've been DustFood. Bye, friends.